The end. But once upon a time, everything started completely differently. We often admire people who are always there. Those who sacrifice themselves for others' peace of mind. But behind every such sacrifice, there's a shadow, and an empty gaze in the mirror. There's a person who helps everyone, while quietly dying inside. Burnout isn't weakness. It's the cry of body and soul. You've ignored yourself for far too long. Remember, if you don't learn to save yourself, no one else will do it for you. Being strong doesn't mean saving everyone. Being strong means being able to say, now it's my turn. I matter too. One click and you're with us together until we hit our first 1,000. You probably know people like this. They're the rescuers, the ones everyone else turns to when their world is falling apart. Who answer calls at 3 a.m. Who never say no. Who pull others out of their nightmares while drowning in their own. He was exactly like that. For friends, a pillar of support. For family, their armor. For colleagues, the one who always takes on extra when everyone else gives up. But for himself? No one, nothing, and that became his curse. You see, being the one who saves sounds beautiful. It's almost heroic. But the truth is dirty, scary, and very simple. When you constantly give away your time, energy, and strength to others, you have nothing left. And an empty person can't truly live. They can only play the role of being alive. He learned to smile when he wanted to scream. To say, everything's fine, when walls were crumbling inside. To listen to others' tragedies when he hadn't slept in days. And yes, he was there for everyone. Always. But here's the thing. When he finally turned around one day, there was no one there. Not a single person who noticed that he was drowning too. His mornings began with other people's problems. Phone buzzing with messages. Are you busy? I need to talk. Help me, I don't know what to do. Do you have a minute? And his minute, that was his entire life. And he gave it away again and again. Day after day, year after year. Until what always happens to those who live for others while forgetting themselves happened, he broke. Do you think burnout is just fatigue? No. It's the moment when even waking up hurts. When your body refuses to obey. When thoughts go in circles. I can't, I don't want to, I won't get out of bed. When everything that used to be meaningful turns to ash. And so one day he woke up and realized he had no strength left even for himself. Which meant he could no longer be there for anyone else. And that's when, for the first time in decades, he was left alone with his reflection. And for the first time in a long time, he asked himself the question he had always ignored. Who will save me? You can play the role of being strong for a long time. But reality always finds the crack. For him, it all started imperceptibly. A missed deadline at work. Irritation in his boss's voice. For the first time in his life, he didn't answer, yes. Friends were surprised. What's wrong, are you tired? He laughed it off, I'm fine. Just didn't sleep much. But that was a lie. Not a small one, the deadly kind. A lie to himself. When he came home, what awaited him wasn't rest, but emptiness. A cold kitchen. A phone that vibrated again, other people's requests, other people's tears. And every time he picked up the phone. Every time he said, yes, of course. I'll help. You know what's the most terrifying thing? He helped so convincingly that no one even noticed he was falling apart. No one. And his body began to rebel. Sleepless nights. Mornings when coffee no longer helped. Constant heaviness in his chest, as if he carried others' pain like a backpack full of stones. At first he thought, it'll pass. Then, it's okay, I can handle it. And then, the main thing is, they're okay. And then one day at the office, surrounded by others' laughter, he felt like he simply couldn't breathe. His chest tightened so hard he thought, heart attack. That's it, the end. But it wasn't the end. It was an anxiety attack. The first of many. But no one noticed. Because he put on his mask again. Because strong people don't fall. Because his role was one thing, to carry the world on his shoulders. except his shoulders were already cracking. And on the day when he came home and looked in the mirror, he understood the truth for the first time. He had been there for everyone. But for himself, nothing but emptiness. You can carry other people's worlds on your shoulders. But there comes a day when you wake up and can't even lift your own body. That's what happened to him. The morning that used to be the start of movement became a nightmare. He lay there staring at the ceiling. His arms, heavy. His thoughts, thick as concrete. And inside, only one thing. Why get up? The phone vibrated again. Messages. Calls. Help me, I feel terrible. You're always there for us. And he looked at the screen and for the first time in his life couldn't press answer. His fingers simply wouldn't obey. That was the moment when the system broke down. When the rescuer, used to lifting others up, collapsed himself. He went to the kitchen, turned on the tap, and stared at the flowing water for a long time. Just stared, and suddenly realized, he hadn't eaten in a day. He hadn't slept in 2 days. He hadn't laughed in years. And in that second it hit him, I'm living other people's lives. And I don't have one of my own anymore. Friends wrote, you've changed. You're so cold now. They didn't understand that it wasn't coldness. It was emptiness. That he could no longer pull others up because he had drowned himself. At work he sat at his desk, staring at his laptop's blank screen. Colleagues exchanged glances. Something's wrong with him. But no one approached. Because strong people don't need help. Because he had always been the one who saves, which meant he couldn't be saved. The worst part started at night, when he was alone in his apartment. Silence, walls, and darkness that seemed to whisper, you're not needed. Not even by yourself. He began to fear sleep. Because sleep was too much like death. And he began to fear morning. Because morning was too much like eternal repetition. One day he looked in the mirror and didn't recognize himself. His face was gray. His eyes were empty. And the question that tore him apart from within, am I even still alive? Or did I die long ago, and I'm just still walking around? That was the breaking point. Not loud, not visible, but quiet, imperceptible. The kind after which a person never returns to who they were before. And it was at that exact moment he understood, if he continued living like this, he would disappear completely. He lived like that for a long time, empty. But one day his body simply refused to obey. He was walking down the street when his legs suddenly weakened. Everything went dark before his eyes. And he realized, one more step, and he'd collapse right on the pavement. It wasn't a heart attack. Not a stroke. It was the result. The result of decades in which he had been everything except himself. People around him stopped. Someone asked, are you feeling sick? He wanted to answer. Wanted to say, yes, I feel sick. I have for a long time. But the words got stuck in his throat. Because he had forgotten how to talk about himself. He only knew how to listen to others. He returned home and for the first time in his life turned off his phone. Sat on the floor, and silence covered him so completely that it seemed you could hear his heartbeat. And suddenly came the realization, he wasn't evil. Not weak. Not a traitor. He had simply never saved the most important person. Himself. That night he took the first step. A small one, but honest. He wrote one message, not a request. Not advice, but an admission. I can't do this anymore. I need help. And maybe that was the bravest thing he had done in his entire life. Because sometimes the hardest thing isn't holding up the whole world, but admitting, I'm human too, and I have the right to be saved.